Welcome to Picard Newsroom, and you're watching Forgotten Minority Pakistan with Romail Gulzar. We've got a couple of guests, one of them from Christian community and one from behalf of the Muslim community. So I'd like to introduce to my first guest, Asif Mal. Welcome to the show. And can you introduce yourself to our viewers, please?
My name is Asif Mal, and I'm the chairman of Pakistan Minorities Rights Organization, which is a lobby group based in the United Kingdom, lobbying and advocacy on behalf of religious minorities of Pakistan.
And next to the Asif, we got Manzoor Moghal, and Manzoor Moghal Leicester base. And Manzoor, welcome to the show. Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Manzoor Moghal. I'm chairman of the Muslim Forum, and I'm a financial consultant by profession.
Thank you for the introduction, both of you. As this in Pakistan, this sort of issue is not only over the year, it's many, many years. I think it's going on nearly over 50 years now. And why is that? So this is a very open question to both of you. You can comment on that. Why is this? Why no people, Pakistani government or Pakistani religion society, they're taking really serious to this matter?
Well, I think when Pakistan came into being, for quite some time, Pakistan enjoyed very good relations between the majority community and the minorities. Indeed, Pakistan was created not for Muslims only, although it was a Muslim state and is a Muslim state, but minorities were guaranteed equal rights with the others, and they were treated very well, and they occupied high positions in various government offices, in the ministry, in the cabinet itself as well. But unfortunately, in the last few years, especially since Zia-ul-Haq came into power through a coup, things began to deteriorate because he could only hold power by bringing in Islamic issues. He was a weak leader. In order to compensate and make up for his weakness, he brought in Islam and Islamic issues, and the blasphemy law in Pakistan was expanded, reinforced, and vigorously pursued during his regime. Pakistan's constitutions have always been compatible with the spirit and letter of Islam. That is a requirement. But the expansion into areas like blasphemy law and its arbitrary application in a state, for example, today Pakistan is a country where corruption is rampant. There is no law and order. Justice is not available. All the laws of the country are flouted by the politicians and legislators themselves. And the courts are not able to dispense justice at any level. In an atmosphere like that, the blasphemy law in Pakistan cannot operate justly against anyone, be they Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, or outsiders.
Asif, you think you're presenting a Pakistani Christian community here, and you are the chairperson of PMRO. You think Pakistani community, especially Pakistani Christian or other minority group living in Pakistan, they're feeling safe in these days?
I think Pakistani religious minorities, Christians being one of the largest minorities, are not feeling safe due to a number of factors. I think one of the reasons is the general growth of intolerance in our society. I mean, there was looking at the recent incidences, like in Joseph Colony in Lahore, there were a Christian and a Muslim guy. They were very good friends. They were actually drinking alcohol together. And after they got drunk, they started to hurl abuse at each other, which does happen all the time. But the Muslim friend got so offended that he thought that I should do something drastic. And so he went and told that the Christian guy has actually said abuses against the religion of Islam, which, by the way, previously, whenever such accusations are made, they are proven to be wrong because the cases that were registered in the lower courts, eventually the superior courts let the people go because there was no evidence, and it was proven that such a blasphemy never occurred. But nonetheless, we can see that the people are using this as a weapon to keep the religious minorities, especially Christians, under pressure, harassed, suppressed, and making sure that no Christian is elevated in his job, no Christian is able to run business or progress in any area of life, because whenever a Christian starts to move forward in society and play a role for the betterment of Pakistan, anyone who is jealous from him, the best way to get rid of him is accuse him of blasphemy, and then not only the person's life is finished, because even The people were killed during the trial was going on, or were not able to live in Pakistan even after the courts acquitted them. We have classical cases of many people, Ayub Masih, for example. We have case of Salamat Masih and Rahmat Masih. They were all acquitted by the courts, but still their accusers said that we do not care whether the court has found them to be not guilty, we still would like to kill them. And that explains that, how anyone, a Christian, can feel safe under such circumstances.
So, Manzoor, as Islamic point of view, what's your thoughts on blasphemy law?
I mean, the Christian minority, which numbers about 2.5 million, certainly feels very oppressed and feels that their human rights are being violated. They're not getting the protection they deserve, as indeed many other minorities. You've heard of the Shia-Sunni conflicts in Pakistan, where hundreds of people are killed. You heard of the Quetta outrage, where over 100 Shias were killed. You heard of the outrage in Karachi a few months ago, where hundreds of people came to grief. So this is a recurring problem in Pakistan, when minorities are targeted by the majority, either deliberately or through mischief, because they are paid agents of other interests who create these problems. Now, this is the reality on the ground. No one can defend Pakistan's record in defending minorities, although courts may acquit people, but on the ground, people are suffering, minorities and others. What shall we do? Now, I've heard people advocating the removal of the blasphemy law from the statute books of Pakistan's laws. I've heard people saying that the law needs to be amended. That's going to be difficult because of the fact that Pakistan is an Islamic republic. We've got a strong voice of the mullahs in the country. Anyone who dares to touch this issue, which is sensitive in terms of curtailing the powers of this law, is going to get nowhere. The only answer lies in continuing to apply greater pressure from outside Pakistan, within the country and from outside. For example, Britain recently announced an aid package of 450 or 60 million pounds to Pakistan by the International Development Agency in Britain. Now, if these donor countries, United States, Britain and European countries, they tighten the screws against Pakistan in delivering aid and make it conditional to the improvement of the state of the minority in the country, I think the Pakistan government will take notice. The public will take notice because they will feel ashamed of their record, which is displayed all across the world by these donor countries. They would be, I think that is a good way, and I've heard of lobbying that goes on in London. I think it's a good idea. But if we ask for the repeal of the law or an amendment, the government in Pakistan, no matter what trade they have, they would be unable to comply with such a demand because they're afraid of the repercussions from the religious lobby in Pakistan, and they will never dare do it.
But Manzoor, as you say, they can stop their financially support. You think that this is enough in Pakistani government, or really as ground root Pakistani community or public, they're really concerned about it because they are two religion and they don't care. Even myself and many times I written to the local British parliamentarian, and what they written back to us, they're saying this issue is so sensitive, we not able to advise to Pakistani government even touch them.
But foreign governments have a way of doing things because Pakistan is heavily dependent on money coming from the United States, Britain, other European countries. And if they feel the pinch and they know why this punishment is being inflicted on them because of the bad behavior, and certainly they cannot justify the behavior. It's an outrage against minorities. Minorities have the same rights as other people. But because Pakistan is a country which is in a state of semi-chaos a lot of the time, it's difficult for any government in Pakistan to implement anything that will cause trouble against them by the mullahs. So the only weapon we have, and especially we in Britain have, is to continue applying pressure on our governments. And let me say this to you. Our governments are not very honest. They're hypocritical. They allow the leaders of Pakistan to amass vast fortunes in stolen money through corruption, which finds its way into Western banks all over the world, and that money works for the Western industry, for the Western society, depriving Pakistanis of that wealth which should be invested within the country to create jobs, to create harmony, and when there is economic prosperity in a country, all the issues that we talk about, oppression of minorities, of religion, they take second place. They take a back seat because people are too busy earning a good living, finding good things in life, and that can be done by the Western countries. But they are, unfortunately, partners in what's going on in Pakistan. How do we resolve that? It's most difficult because they've got vested interests and they have got their own interests in front of the queue. Your interests, minority interests, they do not figure so well in their political agenda, unfortunately. So unless we can embarrass them here in Britain, in the USA, we've got to embarrass these people and say, look, you're not being honest, you're hypocritical, you're paying lip service, you really don't mean it. Why don't you push harder? Don't plead paucity of thought, poverty of action. You need to move quickly and do something. Pakistan will have to succumb in the long run, not to submit to them. It'll have to succumb to a rule of law when minorities are given full protection, where there's law and order, where the country is prosperous in economic terms, people are happy, and then things will turn. For as long as Pakistan remains in the present state, which is getting from bad to worse, things will only get worse.
Asif, you believe this is in Pakistan issue as a minority facing because of all this hatred and all this religion war because of the blasphemy law?
I think the roots of prejudice are very deep-rooted, but nonetheless, the blasphemy law has ignited things to a magnitude that was unimaginable previously. But the point that I would like to make here is that we Christians, we also want to stop any blasphemy happening against the Holy Prophet of Islam. Our plea is that when a person comes and accuses falsely a Christian that he has said A, B, and C against the Prophet of Islam, and then in the court of law it is proven, which has been proven in the majority of the cases thus far, vast majority of the cases thus far, that the person never committed that blasphemy, that means somebody did. Nonetheless, the person who uttered those words saying that this person has done so and it's proven that he didn't do it, the accuser has committed the blasphemy. So our request or demand is that if a person is proven to be innocent in the blasphemy case, then the accuser should be given exactly the same punishment that is for blasphemy according to the Pakistan Penal Code. And I fully agree with Manzoor Moghal that I think we need to encourage Western governments to use an economic leverage to positively encourage Pakistan government to make some of these changes that are necessary to safeguard the religious minorities. And we are very pleased that the US government in June 2011, they did stop Pakistan's military aid. And we are encouraging the European Union and the British government and the NATO to do the same. We want Pakistan the military aid. We are not talking about economic aid because then the ordinary people suffer and we do not want that to happen. We are not in favor of sanctions. We are not in favor of stopping economic aid. But the military aid, and then followed by linking Pakistan's military aid and trade agreements with the Pakistan government with the situation of religious minorities in Pakistan. That is one of the major demands of Pakistan Minorities Rights Organization. And we are going to continue to champion this cause. We are going to continue to lobby with the Canadian government, with the US government, with the European Union and the British government, encouraging them. And I think that that's a language the Pakistani government will understand and will listen to because we have become really tired of coming back to the Pakistani government every time something happens, going to the High Commission. But nonetheless, nothing has changed. No ground realities are still very bitter, an iota has not been changed there. And so I think that we are now forced, we are pushed to the wall, we are forced to now see all our available options, and one of them is to encourage and lobby the Western governments to link their aid and trade agreements with the situation of religious minorities in Pakistan, until we see that the ground realities have changed for the better.
As over the years, so many protests around the world. You just returned from Canada and America. We can talk about your tour as well. And so many protests in Britain, across Europe, across America, Canada, you can name it, around the world outside Pakistan. But there is no positive outcome. As always, every petition will be in the 10 Downing Street or other part of the government or in the Brussels or European Parliament to repeal the law. But do you think how many petitions Pakistani government need more to really take attention on it?
My feeling is that the petitions that will leave with the Pakistani high commissions around the world, they go basically in their dustbin, and they are not even told to the Pakistani government that Christians are protesting. But nonetheless, the Pakistani government does know through the media, through the programs that are done. Everybody knows about the issues, everybody knows about the problems. But the fact of the matter is that nothing has changed. Nobody is doing anything about it. And the reason I think is, these things do try to carry some weight, but for people who have some degree of some conscience, it seems like that it does not really affect the officials in Islamabad to make a change. One of the theories, rightly or wrongly, is considered is that the military is calling all the shots. And since there are very hawks, there are very extremists within the military establishment, within the ISI, who are making sure through their people, like-minded people in the media and all that, who are making sure that nothing changes. As a matter of fact, there are efforts to move the country further towards extremism. Recently, the Taliban have threatened to attack Pakistan People's Party, to MQM and Awami National Party. And the rest of the political parties, they are not attacking them because they think that they are either in favor of some of the demands the Taliban are making, or are at least sympathetic and don't mind accepting the demands of Pakistani Taliban. So I have disagreements with all these three political parties that I've just mentioned, but nonetheless, it seems like that they are the only wall between extremism of Taliban's and peace-loving citizens of Pakistan. So I think the Pakistani, since elections are upon us, I also would like to encourage my fellow Pakistani brothers and sisters, both Christians and Muslims, to think twice before they vote, because we might be getting into really deep waters if we vote the wrong people.
So Manzoor, you spent many years in Pakistan and you graduated from Pakistan FC College, yeah. And you ever come across there in your classmate or your fellow have a religion, or they make a comment on Holy Quran or Prophet Muhammad?
You see, when Asif talked about deep-rooted problems between Christians and Muslims, that needs some explanation. During my stay in Pakistan, we had many Christian students, because FC College is formal Christian college. It's a Christian college, and the ethos was towards Christianity. Now, in all the years I was there, and in Lahore, in Pakistan society, I did not come across any oppression of the Christian community. They were very much part of Pakistan, always. Now, the deep-rooted animosity or differences that Asif talks about has been resurrected, I think. There has been historic aggravation between Christianity and Islam, going back to the Crusades, and that's a long history. So that remains, but in Pakistan, those sentiments never came to the surface, and the communities lived in harmony. The problems have aggravated. He's talked about Taliban, he's talked about military aid, he's talked about military officials and generals. The fault also lies with the foreign policies of the Western governments, the United States, Britain, and their other coalition partners, because they are seen as invaders of Pakistan's territories, invaders of Islamic countries in the Middle East and elsewhere. They invaded Iraq, attacked Afghanistan. Pakistan is being disrupted by the activities of Taliban from across the border and from within the country itself. You've had Libya, you've got Syria now. So everywhere, the Christian nations of the West are seen as enemies, are perceived by the Muslims as enemies of the Muslims. And that has a spillover effect in Pakistan. The Pakistani Muslims then begin to look at the Christians as if they are the enemies from the West, which is not true. So Christianity begins to come under scrutiny in a very different light because of Western foreign policies against Muslim countries primarily all the time. And no matter what they say and what they do, they are doing a great disservice to themselves and to the harmony between Christianity and Islam. Islam has been tolerant of Christianity. Christians have lived in peace within Muslim countries. There was a population of 1.5 million Christians in Iraq before the invasion in 2003. Today, there are only 300,000 Christians left in Iraq. They too feel persecuted. They suffer discrimination. They can't get jobs. They can't get education. And they too are leaving the country. It's not because Muslims have driven them out of Iraq. It's because of the Western policies. The same things happened in Syria. The same things happening in other countries. So we can't train these. And I think when you talk to these Western governments about aid to Pakistan, you must also bring in the foreign policies and say, look, you are seen as aggressors, as invaders. And because of that, we in Pakistan are suffering. So will you try and see that you discontinue such policies which create nothing but disharmony, discord, animosity, hostility between these two major faiths in the world. Christianity and Islam are the two major faiths. Although we are both Abrahamic, we have deep divisions which go back a long time, and we do not want them to keep on surfacing now because the society's complexion has changed. It's more secular in a way, and we need to create better understanding. So I think these are the roots that are so deep that we cannot really resolve them. What we can do from the outside is to apply pressure on other governments. The British government is our government. We have every right living in this country to apply full pressure on them to see that Pakistan behaves better, looks after its Christian minorities and the minorities. If they don't, then we will hold them to account. Because you talked about economic aid. You know very well, Asif, that a lot of economic aid that comes into Pakistan, including aid that went to Pakistan for various disasters, earthquake, flood, etc., that money never finds its way to the poor people. The poor people remain deprived, they remain victims. All the money is siphoned off by the bureaucrats, by the politicians whose fat accounts in the West become fatter and fatter. So you need to apply screws. You don't want the people to suffer, but you want the politicians to suffer. And they've got huge amounts of money. I mean, Britain knows how much money Pakistani politicians have in Britain. Billions. Billions in the United States, billions in Dubai, billions in Switzerland. Why do they allow this state of affairs to exist? Why? Now they've begun to tighten the screws on tax avoiders in the United Kingdom by raiding or by bringing out the secret account in Switzerland, in the British Virgin Islands of all the places, in other places. They should do the same with Pakistan. And that, I think, will make a lot of difference in the way of governance in Pakistan. What you need in Pakistan is a better governance. You've got poor to shoddy governance which cannot look after its own people, leave alone the Christian and other minorities. They cannot look after their own people who are suffering hugely at present.